It was not the first time that China had committed egregious human rights abuses when it began its campaign in Xinjiang against Uyghur Muslims. Before that, the Communist Party of China had obliterated the Falun Gong, a religious minority which fell prey to massacres, organ harvesting, and full-blown state-sponsored persecution that peaked in the late 90s and early 2000s. Before that, China had cracked down on pro-democracy students all over the country. For China, the Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989 never happened, but it very much did, and China got away with it, just as it got away with the persecution of Mongolians and the brutal invasion of Tibet before that. China tested the world's patience with absolute impunity, and the world did nothing. It did not raise a finger, it did not bat an eye. So when the abuses in Xinjiang came to light, it was a routine thing for China. But this time, a powerful man stood up and used his powers for the right thing, and that man was Donald Trump. In a refreshing spin, it took the world Donald Trump to realize its massive ignorance towards China. And when he finally acted against China, the world followed. And even when he is no more in the White House, the world is following his footsteps in making China pay through the nose for its evil deeds. That's what Japan has done now. Japan is making its apparel companies ditch China like there is no tomorrow. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Atul Mishra with this friendly rhino, and in this video I will tell you how textile industries has now begun a mass exodus from China. Let's begin, but before that, let's put the rhino aside. It's been almost a year now since Donald Trump vacated the presidential office in January, but the scars inflicted by his administration still run deep in the Chinese government. For example, the recent exodus of textile companies from mainland China. Leading this departure are the companies from Japan, who are now finding it more advantageous to shift production units back to Japan from China. World Company and TSI Holdings are two major Japanese apparel brands that now want to accelerate domestic production in the coming years. After the proposed overhaul, the World Company's domestic production share in overall production is expected to reach above 30% from 20% as of now. Similarly, TSI Holdings Company is also planning to ratchet up its domestic production by 30 to 50%. Make no mistake, the labor cost in Japan is much higher than that in China or Vietnam. But the Japanese companies are still finding it more profitable to produce more at home. That's because China is mired in women's supply chain disruptions. Exporting a made-in-China product has now become equally painful as manufacturing it. Ports are clogged, containers are in short supply. So it is taking longer for these companies to export goods produced in China, that too at inflated prices. But Japanese textile companies are not alone in ditching China. South Korean companies too are leading from the front. 4 South Korean textile firms have relocated their business out of China over the past few years. The South Korean apparel firm G&G Enterprise recently built a new fully automated smart factory in Southwest Korea that helped it be price competitive and more flexible in product variety. Another reason for this exodus of textile companies from China is that major textile manufacturing hubs around the nation are facing deadly outbreaks of the Delta variant. Chinese state-backed tabloid Global Times recently reported that business in Zhejiang are facing logistical challenges which may impact clothing firms and other sectors of the local economy after factory activity and transportation channels in parts of the province were suspended amid the recent resurgence of coronavirus cases. Mind the fact that Zhejiang is a textile manufacturing hub in China, so it's natural for these textile companies to look out for other or better alternatives to shift their production bases away from the communist nation. Textile is a labor-intensive industry. China emerged as a textile hub owing to its vehemently cheap labor costs and abundance of high-quality cotton in the country. Xinjiang, for instance, accounts for 80% of total cotton production in China. The annual production of cotton in Xinjiang is approximately 5 million tons, which makes China a natural textile hub of the world. But Xinjiang is the same region where China is believed to have carried out extensive human rights abuses against Uyghur Muslims. Allegations of forced labor and atrocities against Uyghurs have taken a massive toll upon China's labor-intensive textile industry. That's all began under the Trump administration. The Trump administration in January this year had banned cotton and tomato imports from China's Xinjiang region amid the allegations that they were made with forced labor from detained Uyghur Muslims. As of today, the EU is also piling up pressure on its companies to sever ties with Chinese companies implicit in forced labor in China. EU has signaled that it will not tolerate human rights abuses in the supply chains of the companies operating in the EU. Cheap and forced labor was China's greatest wealth that helped it build its economy over the past 2 decades. But this great asset is now increasingly turning out to be China's greatest liability. The genocide that China set in motion in Xinjiang has now come to haunt the CCP's fortunes.